Before I start officially, I want to thank the International Development Research Centre of Canada for sponsoring this event and for being the donor for FMR 70, which is on knowledge, power and voice. And we are delighted also to be partnering with the LEARN project, which is Local Engagement Refugee Research Network, also based in Canada, on this exciting initiative. And we'll have a chance to thank our donors again at the end. So without further ado, I'm Alice Phillip. I'm going to hand you over to Marion Couldry, my esteemed co-editor, and she is going to introduce a little bit more about FMR to you and kick us off. Thank you, Marion.
Thanks, Alice. Hello, everyone. It's fantastic to see so many people here, and the country names still are coming in, which is wonderful. So yes, we'll start with a bit of background to Forced Migration Review, its aims, who reads it, who writes for it, and what guidance we can provide to authors. Firstly, Forced Migration Review is published by the Refugee Studies Centre here at the University of Oxford, and I'm sitting in the FMR office. So you can see this is the place where you work, where it all happens. When it was launched 34 years ago, the aim of setting up Forced Migration Review was to provide a forum for the sharing of knowledge and experience between practitioners, policymakers, displaced people, and researchers. And this is because it was felt that those people working for international organizations, governments, etc., had very valuable knowledge, but tended to lack suitable places and ways for sharing this knowledge beyond their immediate organizations. It was also felt that researchers, academics, tended to publish their research findings in academic journals only, usually journals that were quite expensive, and in a style of writing designed for other researchers. And those setting up this new forum, this new publication, also wanted to ensure that the voices and insights of people with personal experience of displacement was heard and actually had influence on policy, practice and research. And so FMR, Forced Migration Review, was launched, and we continue to work to those same objectives today. We want to present accessible, useful articles to help improve policy and practice relating to displaced people. Some of you may already know this, but each issue of FMR has a feature on a particular topic, and sometimes an additional shorter feature or a selection of what we call general articles. And when we publish general articles, that means that you can offer us proposals on any topic relating to forced migration, not just the topics that we are advertising as feature themes. And those feature themes, well, over the years, we've covered a huge range of topics, which has been a privilege to work on. We've published issues on education, gender, livelihoods, detention, climate change, ethics, resettlement, specific countries, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, and Burma, lots of different issues. And you can find all these on our website. Most of them are available in English, Arabic, French, and Spanish. People sometimes ask us how we choose these topics. Well, sometimes they're suggested by readers like you. So please go ahead and contact us after this and suggest burning issues that you want us to cover. Sometimes they're suggested by our board of advisors. And sometimes we choose topics because we become aware that they're being discussed in different international forums, and that there's obviously a growing interest in those subjects. Once we've decided on a topic, we prepare a call for articles, and that will include a short sort of introduction to the background, to the topic, and a list of questions that we hope will encourage thinking and debate and will prompt some suggestions of articles. Once that's ready, we'll publicize it as widely as possible. So who reads FMR? Well, FMR is an international publication published in English, Arabic, French and Spanish, and it is read around the world, as you can see from the people who are here today. Anyone can write for us, anyone can read it. Our readers come from a wide range of organizations, from UN, from NGOs, governments, research, displaced settings, so refugee camps, IDP camps, the media, advocacy, and so on. So it's a very broad readership, and that's something that's very important that would-be authors are aware of. So who writes for FMR, and what might you write on? We always publish a mix of articles written from different perspectives. Some of our authors are experienced writers, but many are not, and many are writing for the very first time when they offer a proposal to FMR, and we welcome that. We judge an article on the quality and content, the quality and usefulness of its content, and not on the qualifications of the author or whether they've published elsewhere. We do encourage authors to focus in on a particular context or program or research topic based on their own area of knowledge. That's important. But we also encourage all authors to try and draw out the broader application and implications of their analysis, because again, we want it to be useful to as wide a readership as possible. And to help authors write articles that might be suitable for FMR, we provide quite a range of information and guidance on our website, again in English, Arabic, French and Spanish, to guide you in that process. Firstly, we'll tell you what we need to know when you contact us to propose an article. And then we will give you individual feedback on any article article proposal we receive. We also provide some general guidance on how to write your article. Okay, so that's the broad overview of what we do and how we'd like you to get involved. It's going to be back to Alice now to discuss that guidance in a bit more detail.
Great. And I can already see that some people are putting questions. If you put them in the Q&A box rather than the chat, then it will be easier for us to see that they are your questions. So if you could just pass them over to the Q&A. So we've recently updated and published in English, Arabic, Spanish and French 3 pieces of really important guidance that we encourage you to read in detail. In the chat shortly, you'll see a Writing for FMR page link appear. And don't go there now, but save that one for later, because there you will see our guidance on submitting a proposal, submitting an article, and also the submission requirements. So I'm just going to go through those briefly so that you have an idea of the types of things that we require. So we know that anyone who writes for FMR invests a lot of time and energy in their articles. So we want to give you feedback on your idea as soon as possible so that you're on the right track. So that's where the submission proposal comes in. We ask that you tell us a little bit about what you want to write about and tell us why you are well placed to write about it. Good proposals tell us clearly how the proposed article fits in with the call for articles that we've put out, or once a year when we have general articles in the call as well, you can also tell us how it fits with the forced migration field. The best outline the main sections that they will cover and give us enough detail to be working with. So a couple of paragraphs is usually sufficient. If they're a lot longer, then that's hard for us to read as well. So a nice, succinct, short couple of paragraphs about what you're planning to write. It may seem like quite a lot of work, but actually investing at this stage enables us to give you tailored feedback so that you can write the best article for FMR. At this stage, we do sometimes discourage authors from continuing with their idea, and we ask them not to submit that particular article to us. It's usually for one of 3 reasons, so we thought we'd tell you what they are. The first is usually the most common. So it's that it doesn't really fit with the call for articles. So we spend a lot of time investing in that call for articles that Marion described. We work with advisors from across the world who are experts in that field, and we shape the kinds of questions that we want to be answering. So if your proposal doesn't really fit with that call, it's unlikely that we will encourage it. So have a really good look at that call for articles. Secondly, some of the proposals are overly academic. Either they use language which is not very accessible to non-researchers, or perhaps they discuss a concept without very much practical application. For us at FMR, it's really important that articles inform policy and practice. They have real-world consequences. And so actually an article that is very abstract is not right for our readers. It might be brilliant for another journal. So it doesn't mean discouraging you generally, but perhaps not for FMR. And thirdly, sometimes we receive articles that are very much overview articles, a bit simplistic for an audience who already knows forced migration really well. And that's what our readers are like. You all work in the field, you're all interested. And so if it's an overly simplistic article, it's unlikely that we will accept it. So for those who we encourage, the next stage is for you to proceed to writing your article. And it's over to you at that stage. It's important to note that us encouraging you to submit an article doesn't mean that we will publish the article, but it does mean that we will review it. And Marion will be explaining in a minute a little bit more about the reviewing process. In general, we accept 30 to 50% of articles for publication. So if you don't get published the first time, do not be discouraged. You are in very good company with a lot of really excellent writers. Just to set your expectations. It's a really popular magazine to write in. And sometimes it just matters on the day if there were 2 articles about the same topic, or perhaps it just didn't quite work with our spread of articles that edition. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't apply again. So let's look in a little bit more detail about what makes a great article for FMR. Again, refer back to the guidance that we've flagged, because you will see some links to articles that we thought were really good examples of articles that fitted with FMR. We're looking for articles that are relevant to our audience, as we've just described. They are a really broad-ranging audience, but they're an audience really engaged with forced migration issues. We're looking for clearly structured articles. That really helps. They introduce the context of the article. They present the issue that you're addressing, and they present conclusions and recommendations. It's really important to us, again, to take things from the abstract and the particular context and broaden them so that they will be useful for other readers. It's about learning. It's about people sharing ideas. And that's really at the heart of FMR. We want to promote a culture of learning and transparency. So actually sharing things that have gone wrong in your own work is a really big gift that you can give to other people. Sometimes it feels perhaps vulnerable to share some of the challenges that you've had, but actually sharing those challenges will really help other people. What are we not looking for? Well, we are not looking for articles that are in perfect English or perfect Spanish or perfect Arabic or perfect French. We receive articles in all those languages, but they don't have to be written by first language speakers, and they don't have to arrive with us perfectly. Again, Marion will explain in a minute the way that we edit, and I hope that you'll feel confident that actually it's really about the ideas and the concepts over and above the perfection of the English. That's where editors come in. We're also not looking for articles that don't fulfill our submission requirements. So the third document that I mentioned earlier is the submission requirements document. And please do go through that in detail before you send it in. Highlights include the word count. The word count is a maximum of 2,500 words, not characters, words. And sometimes people ask us about a minimum requirement. We don't actually have a minimum requirement, but we find that articles that are under 800 words often don't have enough substance to be published, but you could surprise us. But general guidance is between 800 and 2,500 words. We also have guidance in there about endnotes, a maximum of 10. Some researchers get tempted to put in more endnotes, but we definitely are not an academic journal, and endnotes are not our style. We just encourage you to make sure you fulfill that, because actually, if you don't fulfill those requirements, we will not review your article. So please do make sure that you have a good look. And we're also not interested in articles that arrive after the deadline. So please do make sure that you check the deadline and send it to us in good time. So we hope you found that overview useful. Now that your article has arrived in our inbox, Marion's going to tell you what happens next.
And I might just actually add one point to what Alice has just been saying, that if you're not quite sure what sort of style of article is going to work, have a look at our back issues online in all the languages, because then you'll see what we've published before, and that will give you a good idea of what we are looking for. Okay, so what happens after you've submitted your article? All the articles we receive are reviewed. We review them, and we also get assistance from some external reviewers who have more particular expertise in the subject matter of the articles. Because as editors, we think we know a little bit about a lot of things, but we don't know everything about everything. So we do call on other people with more expertise. When we acknowledge your receipt of your article, we'll let you know how long that process, that reviewing process, is likely to take, and when you can expect to hear our decision on your article. And we do notify all authors, whatever our decision. So if it's accepted, we notify you. If we can't publish it, we will also notify you. So please, there's no need to follow up saying, oh, are you going to publish or not? We will let you know. If we accept your article for publication, it will then go through our editing process. And we have to warn all authors that we edit all articles, sometimes quite significantly. This is to avoid overlap with other articles. For example, if we're publishing 25 articles on one feature topic, it's inevitable that there will be overlap between them. So we work to reduce that and to make sure all the articles complement each other. We also very importantly need to ensure readability for all our readers, many of whom will be reading it in a language that's not necessarily their first language. And lastly, we also have to reduce articles quite often in length because of space constraints in the actual issue. So please be prepared for this, and don't be worried when you get your article back and it's shorter or we've changed things. We work very closely with you to make sure that we end up with an article that we are all happy with. Means, of course, the fact that we edit the articles intensely means, of course, that you don't have to worry, as Alice said, about necessarily writing in perfect English. And we hope that takes some of the pressure off. As I said, we will consult you on the edited version, and we would always get your approval of any changes before it goes to print, before it goes online. Okay, that's that overview. Back to Alice again to talk about another way that we might be able to help in getting published.
Yes, soon we're going to be moving on to the question and answers. So I just encourage you, if you still haven't had your question answered by all that we have shared, please do pop it in the question and answer box. So some of you may have heard about our new mentoring initiative. So FMR 70, which is going to be published in June, is on the topic of knowledge, power, and voice. Now, this is a topic which is very challenging for all of us. And one of the things that we wanted to do was to make sure that we weren't only looking at the topic as a magazine, but actually also in our own processes, that we would be looking at how we can give a wider range of people the opportunity to be published in FMR. So this webinar is part of that, but another initiative is an opportunity to receive one-to-one mentoring from somebody who is experienced in writing for publication. And that's a scheme which is open to anyone in the world. We will give preference to people who live and work in regions that are most affected by forced migration issues and who are currently underrepresented in our authorship. So how do you get involved in this initiative? We have about 10 to 15 spaces on this scheme. And to apply, you first need to follow step 1 of our Writing for FMR process. So you need to submit that proposal to us about what you want to write about. So you go to the call for articles, you compose your submission, and you write to us. Now, if we encourage you to continue, you can then apply for the mentoring initiative. And you'll see the link will appear in the chat. It's also on the front page of our website under the news section. You can find the link to the mentoring scheme. There's a short application form. And then on the 1st of December, when the deadline is and when we close the applications, we will then select our 10 to 15 mentees, and you will then be matched with a mentor who will help to take that article with you forward and just provide input and feedback to help you to submit the best article that you can. So it's not a guarantee to publication, but I think with that kind of support, we're really confident that you will be giving your best article to FMR for this really, really exciting edition that's coming up. So it will be wonderful to have some great applications from you all for that scheme. We're doing this scheme in collaboration with Learn over at Carleton University in Ottawa, and they will be running that scheme, and we're delighted to be partnering with them. We have Heather from Learn, and she's going to be talking to you in a minute about a survey, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So you may have questions about mentoring. Feel free to pop them in the question and answer box. So we're nearly at the end of the content that we're sharing with you. We've got a few things that we would also like to flag. Today is an exciting day for FMR, not just because we get to meet with all of you, but because we have launched FMR 68 on externalization with a smaller feature on mobility and agency in protracted displacement. It's been a wonderful issue to work on. It's very topical and it's really challenging. So we hope that you will enjoy reading that. If you are on our mailing list, which I know many of you are, you already know about FMR 68 because you've already received our alert. But if you didn't get an email in your inbox today, that probably means you haven't signed up for our mailing list. And we would love for you to sign up. It's the way that we can tell you about the calls for articles, other opportunities for support. And every time we publish the magazine, you'll get it straight to your inbox with all the links. But we don't send you emails all of the time. So if your inbox is really full, don't worry. We're not going to send you an email every week. It's really only when we need to. And that's also available in English, Arabic, French, and Spanish. So you can sign up on the link that will come into the chat. If you would like to receive the magazine by post, then you can still do that. For some people in some contexts, we know that it's really important to have a physical copy. We know that some people share them in libraries and other shared spaces. And we know that some people use them for training or at conferences. So for you, we would love for you to receive a print copy. If you receive a print copy and actually it kind of sits on the side and you could read it online, then please do switch to the online version. It helps us financially, and more importantly, it helps the environment. And we're really, really conscious of the climate crisis at Forced Migration Review. So we'd encourage you to choose whichever one you really need and to update your address if you may have moved, as we know that does happen a lot in our field. So please do update it if you can. And finally, we would love for you to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook. You can find us by searching Forced Migration Review. We're on LinkedIn, and we only launched last week. So we would love to have some more followers on LinkedIn. You do that as well by searching Forced Migration Review. And then we are on Twitter. We're quite active on Twitter at FMR Review. And again, on there, you'll see all of our opportunities and our publications. We also find that lots of our authors tweet about their articles. And so it's great to follow different people in the field. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll get to see them as well as we retweet them. So thank you so much for listening to this first half of the webinar. And now we will turn over to the questions and answers. I'm just going to pull them up and start to select a few answers. Now, we don't promise that we can answer all of your questions today, but we promise to try our best. So I'm just going to have a quick look down. If you want to send a question in Arabic, that's fine. I'm going to have to get Mohammed to maybe, if you don't mind, Mohammed, looking at the question and answers. If there are any in Arabic, could you just send me in the chat what it says and I will try and answer it. I think I can probably, yeah, Suzette, if you could do the same for Spanish, if there are any in Spanish. So.
Alice, shall I kick off with one of the questions?
Please do.
Going down from them. I think there's one of them quite early on has asked whether the publications are refereed, which I think perhaps means peer reviewed. And as we said, they are all reviewed. And yes, FMR does qualify as a peer reviewed publication. It is archived in the Oxford University Research Archive, which only accepts peer-reviewed journals and publications like FMR. So although it's not, the review process is not as quite as lengthy as an academic journal, it does qualify.
Great, thank you. There's a few questions in here about different links. So Marion, could you share again the link about how to apply for the mentoring scheme? People would like to have,
yes. Yeah, I'll keep
repeating
repeating those. Yes.
Yeah. So Caitlin asks, how long after the initial proposal submission should we expect feedback on whether to proceed or not? Thank you. Well, this is a great question. We aim to answer within a week. Due to certain workload issues, and as I'm sure you've all found, remote working and the global pandemic have definitely increased our workload in lots of ways, means that we have been running a bit behind. So if you have submitted already for FMR 70, you may find that it's been a couple of weeks since you submitted. So we are on it and we will respond as soon as possible. But in general, it will be about a week. So I hope that that answers that question.
I suggest that linked to that is a question about how long then does the whole time frame take between that proposal and actually publication. And for example, if the issue that we are now reviewing articles for on climate crisis and displacement, the deadline for submission was mid-October. We're now reviewing all the articles. Authors will be notified in December and it will be published in March. So there you are, that's a sort of November, December, January, February, a sort of 5-month time frame.
Marion, do you just want to share about FMR 70's timeline going forward?
So FMR 70, the deadline for submissions is the 15th of February next year. It will then take us a few weeks to review all the articles. And then the issue is being published in July.
Great.
And all that information about calls for articles and deadlines for submission is on our website. And we'll put that on, if you look at our forthcoming page, we'll put that up again on the link.
Great. I think that probably answers Elsa's question. We've got another question here. What if I'm doing research that I hope to publish in a scholarly journal? But I think it is relevant for FMR and practitioner audience, for the FMR and practitioner audience in a shorter non-academic format. Yes, this is the kind of thing that we are interested in. In fact, one of the ideas behind FMR is to make sure that lots of the great research that ends up in academic journals is shared with people for whom it may be very relevant, but not very accessible in those journals, either because of barriers, financial barriers, or also because of the language. So if you have an idea for reshaping your article to work for our audience, then please do submit it. That's a great kind of article.
We would just remind everybody that you please contact us first before submitting anything. Let us know what you're proposing to write on, because then we can advise and say, yes, that would be suitable, or maybe not this time, but or we can guide you in what elements of a previously published article might be suitable.
Great. Kiran asks, can graduate students write for FMR? Also, should the article necessarily be based on empirical research or original fieldwork conducted by the prospective author? Yes, graduate students can write for FMR. As we've said before, we really like people to be well placed to write about their topic. So that could be that you have done specific research, but it also could be that you've had particular experiences working. No two graduate students are the same. So we always say anyone could write for FMR, but you need to submit your proposal and tell us why you would be well placed to write about that particular topic. Whether or not it needs to be based on fieldwork, no, it doesn't need to be based on original fieldwork. Sometimes people do have fieldwork that they're telling us about. What we don't encourage is for people to do specific research for an FMR article, particularly because they may not be published, and we know that people have then invested a lot of time in that fieldwork. So if you've already done the fieldwork or it's part of a broader project, then that's a great topic for FMR. Do you have anything to add to that, Marion?
No, sorry, I was just answering somebody else's because about being peer reviewed who'd missed that. No, I think that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so somebody else asked, are collective authorships accepted or encouraged, Marion?
Yes, we really like getting co-authored articles, particularly if you're writing with people, if you're a researcher, but you've been working with a local NGO, for example, it's great to get those sort of partnerships reflected in the authorship. We prefer you not to, sometimes we get articles submitted when they say there were 10 or 11 co-authors. And frankly, we don't usually believe that. Usually it's a smaller number of people writing it and then wanting to give credit to others, which is great. But we would always say, please only list as co-authors those who actually wrote the article, but you can always put in an endnote. We would like to thank the following for their contribution to this research or to this article. But we welcome co-authorship.
Great, that's wonderful. Okay, here's another question. Can we still submit a proposal for issue 70? Definitely. So as Marion said, it doesn't close for the full submissions until the 15th of February, but you need to leave yourself enough time to write to us, for us to encourage your proposal, and then for you to write the article. So you'll know how long you need, but we already are receiving lots of submissions, so please do submit them soon if you would like to.
And just to remind you, because I think various questions are coming up on this, that you can write to us and submit articles, article proposals and articles in English, Arabic, French and Spanish. Presumably you'd only be submitting in one of those languages, I mean French or Spanish.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, just Mohammed, if you can send me a translation, I could pause for a second so I'm not saying anything, so that you could tell me what or maybe you could speak. Is there a way of, I don't want to miss the Arabic question. What I'll do, Mohammed, I'm going to turn on the Arabic chat, so I'll be listening to Arabic for a second. Sorry, everyone else. So I'll receive the anonymous attendee.
Shall I answer another question in the meantime? No, you're listening to that. Okay.
Okay, Mohammed, I'm listening to you. Yes. Yeah. Maybe just one, that's fine for now, and then you can give me another one in a minute. Okay, thank you. It's really important to us at FMR that we are inclusive of different languages. So although we don't personally speak all the languages that FMR is published in, we want to make sure that we are able to receive questions. So thank you, Mohammed, for translating that. It sounds like the person has a lot of relevant experience, and we would love for them to submit a proposal to us. What is the best way to find out about the next deadline to submit proposals? Signing up to our mailing list and following us on any social media is the best way of doing that. Marion, can you see a next one?
Yes, Kieran asked said that they submitted a proposal but hadn't seen the email guidelines. In which case, if that suggests that we haven't responded to you, and I do apologize, as Alice said, it's been a very, very busy couple of weeks. In that case, well, should we resubmit it? Yes, that would be very helpful. Actually, if you could resubmit it, consider the guidance, and then resend your proposal in the format that we request with the information that would help us provide more informed feedback. That would be very grateful. Thank you, and thank you for your patience with our delay in responding over the last couple of weeks. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to take a couple more, and then we're going to move on to the final part of the webinar. So somebody says, do you accept proposals that include, say, 2 ideas for an article? Yes, sometimes it's really helpful if a person has 2 different ideas that are very unrelated and they don't know which route to go, then we can really help. Sometimes you could just put 1 proposal, but maybe a question, should I make it more like this or more like that? And we're happy to give feedback on those kinds of questions. Obviously, the clearer you are, the better. So if you do have the chance to just submit 1 idea, then please do. But actually, sometimes it makes sense to submit more than 1. So that's fine. Include them in the same email so that we can respond to you in one go. Okay.
Can I respond to one question? I've just noticed we have a previous author for FMR, Pam Delagi. Lovely to hear from you, Pam, asking whether we'll be doing a special issue on the resettlement of Afghans who were evacuated. We haven't had a discussion about that. We had an issue relatively recently on resettlement return. Actually, it was a while ago. I'm just looking up at our posters on the wall, which remind me of all the issues we've done. But if you think that is a topic, if anybody thinks there's a topic that could become a special issue, either a small feature within an issue, or a major feature, then we really welcome your an email from you. Just laying out a few ideas of what that issue, that feature might include. If you think there's mileage in that and you have ideas of what aspects we could cover to make it into a feature, please do email us. That would be great. Thank you.
Great. Khadija asks, should I send a separate proposal story, or do I just need to fill up the mentoring sheet? Yes, if you want to apply for the mentoring program, please do send us a separate email with your proposal. And when we've encouraged you or given you feedback that it's perhaps not the best article for this particular issue, then you can go ahead and apply for the mentoring scheme if we've encouraged you. So please do that separately. Another person has asked, if an author has proposed a concept earlier, but due to unforeseen circumstances has been unable to submit the complete article within the deadline, can they submit for another issue of FMR if the subject matter is similar? So about once a year, we have space for general articles. And that is your opportunity to write on something that maybe we don't have a recent or forthcoming feature on. If you have just missed the topic of climate change, it's probably unlikely that we will have a general article on climate change very soon afterwards. But it's still worth sending if you think that perhaps you've got a different angle from the feature. It does happen that people don't submit. We all have complicated lives, and we totally understand if that happens to you. If you let us know, that's always helpful. If you're not planning to actually submit once we've accepted your proposal, but it happens all the time, so really not to worry. Okay. I'm just seeing if there's maybe one more. And any more that pop out to you, Marion, at this stage, because we're going to have to move on in a minute.
There's Claudia asks about what's the relationship between the 1st of December deadline and the 15th of February deadline. And the 1st of December deadline is for applying to be part of the mentorship scheme. The 15th of February is actually when articles need to be submitted, be finalized. So the mentorship will take place in between those months, those dates. I hope that answers your question, Claudia.
Yeah, great. I see just a couple to end with. Would it be better to submit an article in English or in another language? For example, if I submit an article in Spanish, would this only be considered in Spanish, or would it be translated? So the way it works is that you can submit in any of the languages that we publish in. I happen to speak fluent French, so I would probably read the French ones in French. Marion can read Spanish, so she might read them in Spanish. But in general, we would use a translator, or perhaps sometimes to get an idea, Google Translate, just to read the initial version. But we will then work with translators when we do the editing. So we will edit in English still, because that's the language that we can edit in, but then it will be translated to the relevant languages. So that's how it works. But we would encourage you to submit in whichever language is most comfortable for you, because actually you will write your best work in a language that you feel confident in. So please do whatever works for you within French, Spanish, and Arabic. Okay, some of you, I'm afraid we haven't answered your questions, but I hope that that's been a good range of questions. We'll take these questions and answers. We'll have a good look through, and we will publish on our website some of the answers to those questions. If you still haven't got the answers, please email us and we'd be happy to reply to you. So I'm now going to introduce you to Heather. Heather works at Learn, and I'm just promoting her to being a panelist. So Heather, if you can accept that promotion, then you will be able to appear on the screen. Great, welcome Heather. We are really interested here at FMR, and so are our partners at Learn, in what is stopping people from writing for FMR. And so Heather has designed a survey along with her colleagues to ask some of those questions. And we would be really grateful if you were able to answer the survey. It's only got 8 or 9 questions, I think, and Heather will introduce it a little bit more. It will really help us to design helpful support for people so that we get the best out of each of you, and we're able to come alongside you in whatever way we need to. So Heather, over to you, and then I'll take back before people go off and do their surveys.
Thank you so much, Alice and Marion, for this wonderful webinar. And I personally also have learned a lot from it. I just have shared the link to the survey in the chat. There's a Spanish version and an English version. The survey is completely confidential, but here at Learn, we are also going to be collaborating closely with Forced Migration Review on the upcoming issue Knowledge, Voice, Power. So we wanted to use this as an opportunity to gather reflections on the publishing process. So the survey is, I think it's 9 questions, and we're going to hopefully be incorporating some of the reflections and observations that you provide us into an article that will be part of the special issue. So thank you very much if you just take 5 minutes to fill the survey out. And please let me know in the chat if you have any technical problems with it. But thank you again, Alice and Marion. I really congratulate you on a very, very interesting webinar.
Thank you so much, Heather, and to all your colleagues at Learn. We're really glad to be partnering with you on this issue. I've put the surveys, I think, Heather, they had just gone to the panelists, so I've shared them out with everyone now. I hope that I've got the English and Spanish ones correctly the way round. So if you are able to fill that in, that would be wonderful. Just to say that there will be another webinar coming up, probably in May time, which will be about promoting your work. So that will be really relevant to authors who have been selected to be included in this next edition, but also it might be relevant for you as someone who would like to promote your writing more. So please do look out for that as well, and you can get involved. This is the formal end of the content of the webinar, but we're going to stay online a bit. If you've got more questions that you would like to put in the chat, please put them in and we can be answering them in a written form or answer you later. And please do stay and fill in the survey. So we wish you a very good rest of your day, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for your support of Forced Migration Review, for reading, for wanting to write, and for being part of this amazing community, debating and challenging and encouraging one another in this really important field of work. So thank you and goodbye from me. And Marion is still on mute.
I'm sorry, technology failed me right at the very end. Yes, goodbye from me, and thank you very much. It's been so lovely being in touch with everybody, and we hope we've managed to answer some of your questions, and we'll continue to answer more. Thank you.
Oh, and the recording, sorry, it will be up next week. So if you join our mailing list, you will be alerted and sent the link. So thank you for that. Okay, all the best, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.